Hey, how are you guys doing? Okay. All right, everybody ready? Okay. Um, I'm Mayor Jane Castor, and as many of you know, I'm a lifelong resident of our wonderful city, and over half of my 60 years has been spent in service to our community. I saw a lot during those 31 years as a police officer for the city of Tampa, but I've never seen anything like what I saw last night in our community. A peaceful march began yesterday afternoon, a march in which everyone was allowed to express their thoughts in a very safe environment. Most expressed what the nation feels, and that is anger and outrage over the treatment and ultimate death of George Floyd. Others spoke of social injustice and the issues that boil just below the surface. Police officers lined the streets to ensure that everyone had a safe platform in which to express themselves. The crowd, measuring in the hundreds, walked along 56th Street down to Fowler and then west into the city. There were few incidents and all of the participants remained peaceful. Around 6 p.m., that tone changed. Individuals and groups in the area of East Bush and North 30th and the University Square Mall parking lot began throwing objects at law enforcement officers. Those objects included explosives in the form of fireworks, glass bottles, and rocks. Several storefronts were smashed, and the Mobile and the Champs stores were burned. 41 adults and juveniles were arrested by the end of the night. When the violence began and the arrests started to be made, I was certain that those individuals were from outside of our city. The story this morning says that they were not. What I saw last night was not a call for voices to be heard, ideas to affect change, or ways to shine the light on inequality. What I saw was shameful. What I saw was also heartbreaking for our community. And what I saw did not reflect our community and the values that we all share. One of the many things that I love about our city is the way that we come together when there's a problem to be solved or an issue to be addressed. Physical violence and looting are not the answer. They are simply criminal behavior that solves nothing. Make no mistake, there are systemic issues and problems that must be addressed in our community. Chief Dugan and I marched alongside each of you yesterday afternoon because we share your anger over the death of George Floyd, and we share your hopes and expectations of a better tomorrow. But issues that did not arise overnight will not be fixed overnight. In fact, issues involving education, public health, workforce development, affordable housing, and transportation solutions take time. They take time and they take the effort of the entire community. One of the high points of my interaction with the marchers yesterday afternoon was the number of young people that asked me how they could get involved, what they could do to make a positive change and be a part of that positive change. This lifted my heart more than last night's destruction saddened it. What I saw last night happens in other cities. It does not happen in Tampa. We're better than that. We are Tampa strong, and it's the responsibility of each and every one of us to do our part and to work together to lift our city up. My plea is for everyone to do their part in denouncing violence and destruction in all forms. But more importantly, let's join together and be a part of the solution. Let's stand together and show the world what makes our city so amazing. I'll have Chief Dugan talk about some of the incidents from last night and what our plans are going forward this afternoon. Chief?
So last night we had about 40 businesses that were burglarized and looted. We had 5 of those that were set on fire. There may be others that have yet to be reported. We'll know more as the day goes on. We had one officer who had a minor burn to her arm when they set off some mortars at us. We had 27 police cars that were damaged. It ranged from punctured tires to shattered windows. In the city of Tampa, we made 41 arrests. I would expect more arrests tonight if we have a similar situation. I can tell you the mayor and I were together last night, and it was just heartbreaking to see people get in the face of police officers, the anti-police chants, which is something that we're used to. We can deal with that, but the civil unrest was just so disappointing. I'm actually kind of at a loss for words over the whole thing. It's like the mayor said, her and I were out there marching with protesters because this might shock some people, but I'm against police brutality. The mayor's against police brutality. 31 years, 6 years as chief of police, she never tolerated it. I do not tolerate that as chief of police. The mayor would fire me if I tolerated that. This is disappointing. I thank all the good people of Tampa, and I thank our police officers. The courage and restraint that they used last night was just inspiring to me. What those police officers did and what they took on last night was just simply short of amazing.
So were shots fired by protesters during this event last night?
It's hard to tell. We had a few reports of that. It was difficult to tell. Between the fireworks and some of the other issues, it was difficult to actually confirm whether there were shots fired.
What do you tell to the business owners along Fowler and Bush Boulevard that had their businesses?
It was, I say I'm sorry, because as chief of police, to see this happen under my watch, it's very difficult to deal with. Very disappointed. I'm sorry, what was the question? That's something that the mayor and I are in discussion with. That's ultimately the mayor's decision, that she will work with other policymakers. But I think my message to potential protest today and tonight, if you're a peaceful protester, I'm asking you to stay home. Do not come out. It is a different tone right now, and it's not about community policing. It's not about mentoring and coaching. The behavior that took place last night is not going to be tolerated. There will be a different tone today. If you are a peaceful protester, I suggest you stay home, because there are people that do not want to peacefully protest. They want to take over your voice. They want to take over your words, and that's not going to be tolerated. Well, we took a hard stance last night, and I think we are going to take an even harder stance tonight. Well, we'll be flexible, and we're going to be out there, and we have some plans.
Did you have enough
Mayor?
staff last night?
Yeah, I think we had enough staff. The problem was they were splintering off into small groups, and that is a challenge, but I think we're going to have a better game plan for today.
Couldn't get somebody like John Bennett to sit down in the middle of the street like you did tomorrow?
Well, he is the chief of staff, and he's here today. We have called in everyone. This isn't about egos of mine. I have a former chief of police. I have him, the chief of staff, at my disposal. We as a city government are going to take this on, not just as a police department.
When did you start to notice things changes? When you were out here with the protests earlier, they were rowdy, loud and stuff, but for the most part, they were not doing anything like breaking windows or attacking officers. Then officers walked with them through there, and yet one same people who were also, as people as possible. And then totally flipped.
Well, I noticed it yesterday morning, where some of you were out here, and I noticed a little bit of a different intensity of what we're used to. We're used to standoffs and giving them the opportunity to let their voices be heard. That's something we've prided ourselves on in our city, that we work with protesters. As the day went on, you could see the tension start to rise. And I think that's when, as the day went on, you saw the peaceful protesters kind of go home and realize that there were some people who really didn't have the best of intentions.
Do you practice crowd management control all the time? Obviously, you beefed up really big 4 years ago.
Yeah, no, we have teams that actually practice, and I think that's why we were fairly successful considering the circumstances. You know, I think it could have been much worse. You know, for the people who are anti-police, think about what happened last night, and think about if the cops weren't there, and how much worse it would be. What kind of society would we have if every police officer across the nation said, "I'm not going to go to work today"? And that is just a small sample of what you would have. Thank God for the cops that were out there last night.
A lot of these protesters and protesting against black and being hurt and stuff like that, but they're out in working for out in the university area, and we saw some single moms, some single black moms come out today who just got back to work and it wasn't getting paid for polio, and now they can't go to work because they have a place to work. One mom out there crying, saying that they're taking food out of my kids' mouths. You can speak to that because if you were doing it, then you know that you are hurting the people you say you're trying to help. You're trying to protect.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make sense. I understand that people are venting, they're frustrated, they've seen this before, and they feel like things aren't changing. I think the state of policing in the United States is tremendously better. You know, but you're right, they're not helping people. They're not helping the situation. I don't even think they care, quite frankly. I question whether how many of them actually saw the video and even know who George Floyd is. You know, I always go back to the fact that our mayor used to be the chief of police, and she had an overwhelming victory a year ago. If this was a community that did not support their police department, would they have ever elected her as mayor? And I just don't see that. It was very disappointing and heartbreaking. You know, Mayor, I mean, what were your thoughts when you were out there with me?
Yeah, it's when you asked earlier, you know, about the RNC. I tell you, this was a different group last night, and there was, you know, I can't speak for who was out there to say that the thought of any type of injustice was in their mind, but it sure didn't look like it. They were just bent on destruction. And as the chief said, they would break off in groups, and you know, we would get one location under control, and they would splinter off into other areas. And I mean, come back over and over. They tried to light the Sears automotive place on fire several times, but it was a different group. But to your point of the single mother that, you know, was able to return back to work after COVID and is now had her place of employment destroyed. That's what I think the community, that's where I'm asking that the community get involved. It's everyone's responsibility. It's the parents' responsibility to know where your kids are. A couple of the kids that were arrested, juveniles that were arrested last night, had ankle bracelets on them. So we have to pay attention. We have to do this as a community. It has to be a community effort. I applaud the efforts and the restraints of the officers last night. There were many officers out there that were close to 24 hours working, and they were out there doing everything they could to keep our community safe while they were being pelted with rocks and bottles. And I know the community could say, well, just go in and put an end to that. You know, if you're standing there and you're watching it in real time, that's a lot easier said than done. And we have to ensure that we are protecting the citizens, even those that are out protesting and those that are destroying property. But I tell you what, you know where my heart is and the admiration I have for the Tampa Police Department. The officers out there last night were just beyond amazing, and they showed a great deal of restraint, and they stayed on it to make sure that there wasn't more damage than there actually was, and more importantly, there weren't any more injuries than there were. We've seen this before too, and I want to caution the community in this as well. Remember what happened in Dallas. You know, these things turned into random ambushing of police officers across the United States. So I implore the community to pay attention to this. Tampa is better than this, and it's going to take each and every one of us to ensure that there's no violence and no property destruction in our community. And then it's also going to take each and every one of us to come together to fix those systemic issues that have plagued every community across the nation.
Why not just set it for, go ahead and set it for tonight?
That's something that we're in discussions with the county. You know, we have to work in conjunction, and then you also have to factor in and consider the ancillary issues. You talked earlier about businesses just being able to open after COVID, and so now on a busy business night, they are punished for the actions of a few. So that's something that we're going to discuss, and I'll make a decision that's in the best interest of our entire community. All right, thank you all very much.